Luton Town did what AC Milan, PSG and Borussia Dortmund could only do in 3 games combined, and that is score 4 goals at St James's Park. Alongside me to recap on a quite incredible afternoon of football is the Lutonian journalist James Cunliffe. James, recovered from that one?
And now they're going to believe us.
Absolutely, yeah. We will unlock it all after this intro.
I love this town. I love this town. I love this town. You know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got these massive souls. We're Luton people, and that's what we care about.
Hello everyone, welcome along to another episode of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast. We are recapping on Newcastle United 4, Luton Town 4, which is still incredible to say it, even the day after it happened. As I said before the intro, James is alongside me as always. Have you ever seen anything like that, Jimbo?
Yeah, no, I thought I'd seen a lot with Luton, but my word, that was a match of absolute pure mayhem. And I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Rob Edwards has said in a few press conferences recently, he likes to bring the chaos. But what I loved about this was he brought the chaos, but he brought control with it. Controlled chaos equals danger, doesn't it, as far as Luton are concerned? And Newcastle got it both barrels.
They did. 8 goals in 2 games. I never thought I'd see that phenomenal amount of goals from this team, but they just do keep surprising you. And it was an incredible game of football. Quite rightly, the first game of match day absolutely nailed on after that many goals and that many twists and that many turns. It was, I was racking my brain so I even think of a scoreline in a match like that at least in the 7 seasons that we've been doing this podcast, and I'm afraid I just can't.
No, needless to say, and this is no sort of shame on anyone, no one got the correct score for this game. No. I don't think anyone would ever have seen 4-4 coming. The first time Luton has played out a 4-4 draw since Charlton away in the League Cup back in 2003, the great days of Gary McSheffrey and everyone else, and even that needed extra time to finish 4-4. It was only 3-3 after 90 minutes. It's just an incredible game of football. I mean, you say that Luton are surprising everyone. Well, we definitely surprised a lot of Newcastle fans that commented on our preview show that had stupid comments like Luton are going to park the bus, Luton aren't good enough, they're going to get thrashed, all this, that and the other. I mean, come on now, lads. We beat you at our place, fair and square. And you needed £90 million worth off the bench, otherwise you'd have got beaten at your place as well. It was just an incredible afternoon. But I mean, if we start where we always do with the team sheets, I knew Luton were going to have some fun and games at St James's Park when I saw the team sheet. We said it in the preview, James. Dan Burn down that left-hand side was an accident waiting to happen. I've got to be honest, I've never really brought into the Eddie Howe hype. Yeah, he did an okay job at Bournemouth, but they spent a lot of money and he signed a lot of tosh. And he's got Newcastle into Champions League football, but again, he spent a lot of money. That's the modern way. I'm not against him, but I just don't think he's quite as good as the hype. But if you've watched Luton recently, or you stood on that touchline at Kenilworth Road 6 weeks ago or whatever it was, and you still pick Dan Burn at left back in that game when you've got Tino Livramento ready and waiting, you basically deserve all that you get. And boy, did they get what they deserved, because Chio ran Burn so rampant that he just had to put his hands up in submission and, wave the white flag after 65 minutes. And that's what happened.
It was an incredible sight, and I'm all for it. Long may that continue. If everyone wants to do that against Chio Ogbeni, who even we have talked about it, has been clocked as the fastest time in the Premier League. The guy is lightning, and I'd like somebody to send me a picture of Dan Burn the day after. I'm pretty sure his eyebrows are singed. He put on the afterburners that many times.
It's not just Dan Burn's eyebrows that are singed. There's actually a scorch mark down two sides of the pitch that Chio operated on. 15 seconds was that we was after him. You know, you could tell straight away that the game plan, I mean, we highlighted it in the preview, and if we're highlighting it, surely paid analysts are working it out. He had no support either in front of him. It was just Dan Burn trying to defend Chio, and it was like asking a 2-year-old to defend against Ronaldinho. It was just brilliant to watch, because as we've said on this podcast loads of times, if there's one thing that as a football fan you love, it's a winger squaring up the fullback and saying, "Come on then, let's have it," and knowing full well that the winger's going to win every single time, and he did. And eventually, you know, Bernard had enough and fouled him, didn't he? I mean, we'll come on to the third goal in a little while, but yeah, I was really, really happy with that team sheet. As far as Luton concerned, just the one change, Teden Mengi in for Reece Burke. We kind of intimated that that would happen, largely because, you know, we're still managing Reece back to fitness, and also how do you leave Teden Mengi out when he's fit? You can't. Didn't really do a great deal wrong, albeit we still conceded 4 goals. That's just the craziness of the afternoon. But yeah, it's just, it was really, really weird. Obviously, fall behind after 5 minutes. And you kind of, we also said in the preview, didn't we? You think back to the cup game, we were 3-0 down in 25 minutes and we were out the game. And they score after 6 minutes. You keep all the attacking players quiet, and then all of a sudden Longstaff pops up and you're like, please just don't be the same as the cup game. But this lot are made of stronger stuff, aren't they? When they get punched to the chin, they respond with one pretty quickly afterwards.
And it's one of the most remarkable things. I mean, in a litany of remarkable things about this Luton team, that, you know, under the previous manager, who's just got a job at Charlton, so good luck to him. If you went down 1-0 away from home at the end of the game, and that doesn't seem to bother Luton anymore, it doesn't faze them whatsoever. And I thought they composed themselves really quite well after the first goal, and obviously got back into it. So this team, there's a lot been made about this team about they never say die and they never quit, but that talks about their ability to score late goals, but to come back from adversity as well. They you know, undaunted by any sort of setback, and that's got to be a huge plus.
Yeah, I'm out of words to describe the pride that I have of supporting this football club right now, and that's largely one of the reasons. You got, give credit to Newcastle for that opening goal. The ball out to Trippier was beautiful. The ball from Trippier inches away from Sambi Lokonga, but that's exactly where he placed it. And then Longstaff, great finish, no chance for Kaminsky. Good first goal. If that was the other way around, would be waxing lyrical about it. But you always know when Luton get a free kick. You know, the old eyes get a bit wider because you know what's coming. Usually it's Alfie, isn't it? But Ross was like, no, I'll have some of this one. Chipped it in. Carlton Morris, absolute monster. I'm going to come on to him later because he was a machine over the course of the 90 minutes. Heads it across goal. Credit to Gabe Osh. It's obviously a training ground routine, isn't it? Because Gabe knows where the ball's going and he attacks it. Thumps a header in off the crossbar. They always look better when they go in off the crossbar, don't they? And we're back in the game, and nothing more than we deserved, given the way that we took that punch and came back with our own.
Yeah, I think so. They really composed themselves quite well, and there's just goals in this Luton team. So now, you know, if 8 goals in 2 games doesn't say that to you, but that's been happening for a while now. Luton scored against all the big boys, really, bar Tottenham, if you can count them as big boys. Sorry, Spurs.
Blimey.
But yeah, they could fight. They know where the net is, and it's not just one player that's doing it as well. It's not like last season where it was all Carlton Morris 1-0 away. If Gabe Osho's getting in on the act as well, and it's throughout the team. Nearly everyone scored, really. So I mean, yesterday was a match for the attacking purists, wasn't it? I mean, you can pick apart the defensive frailties of mistakes on both sides, and I guess we'll touch on some of them, but really you've just got to marvel at 2 teams going hell for leather at each other, really, and it was just one hell of a game.
If you're neutral, and I've seen some newspaper reports saying this, you just got to marvel at the fact that Luton have no real right to go to St James's Park and say, come on then, let's have you in a game of football. What are we, 7 months in from promotion, or, you know, starting out in our Premier League life? To be fair to those comments that were on our preview, a lot of promoted teams will go there and park the bus and aim not to get an absolute towel in. But that's never been the way Luton Town operate, and it's not going to be the way Luton Town operate. And maybe they were a little bit shell-shocked from the way that we sort of set up. As I said a minute ago, we made our intentions perfectly clear in the first minute when it was straight after Dan Burn, having done 90 minutes of it or however long he was on the pitch for in the first game. But again, credit to Newcastle. They're obviously a very comfortable side at home. That pitch from up in the away end looks bloody massive. And whereas we could contain Brighton in the centre of the park because there's no space for them to pass around and we can press easily, we're having to do sort of 20, 25 yard sprints to get anywhere near any of their players, and kind of took us, I don't know, 20, 25 minutes to work it out, by which time we've got ourselves up on the halfway line. We're starting to press really high, but good teams are capable of breaking that high line down, and they did. Ball out to Anthony Gordon. I don't want to be critical of Gabe Osho in any way, shape or form because he's been immense this season. Wipe him out. Just wipe him out on the halfway line. You're going to get booked, but that's absolutely fine. We'll take that. Once he's got past him, credit to Gabe, he's got back. Then he's allowed him cut inside. Kaminski's made a good save. At the time, I was a little bit critical that he pushed it straight out to Longstaff. You'd like him to try and get that wide of the goal, but then we saw at the opposite end the exact same thing happen. And Longstaff's got another tap in, and you're like, for Christ's sake, Gordon's not scoring, Almiron's not scoring, Murphy's not scoring. Who's this bloody one who scored for a second time in 15 minutes or whatever? Again, pretty simple finish, but I think that's the one that would not disappoint Rob, but that's the one that we could have dealt with a lot earlier in the piece than what we did.
Yeah, I mean, I have to admit, I didn't think that Anthony Gordon was that quick. I thought he'd be fairly nippy, but I thought he was going to get away from Gabe at one point. Fair play to him for sort of recovering enough to hold him up a bit, but to get the shot off is he didn't close him down really. He can either wipe him out earlier on. I mean, don't want to be really that cynical, but they were on the break, weren't they? And then maybe don't show him inside to where he can have a pop. But at that point, because it was only like 2 or 3 minutes after the equaliser, it felt like a downer. But you do still go back to this thing that Luton, they don't give up, really. I mean, there was a pretty ominous stat at the time that every time Sean Longstaff scored for them recently, they've won 10 of the last 11. And so for him to get 2, you're thinking, bloody hell, this might not be going Luton's way, but they fight and fight and fight, and they got back into it.
The other thing we said in the preview podcast is if our 2 can dominate their 3 in the centre of the park, they're in for problems. Our 1, I mean, that's no disrespect to Lokonga, and I shouldn't really say it because Lokonga was brilliant anyway. But when you think you've seen the best of Ross Barkley, he's like, no, hold my beer. I've still got more to come. He was absolutely immense on Saturday. He was a beast in the centre of the park, and quite why you're in Amsterdam watching some idiot that you know all about, Gareth, when this bloke is running the Premier League ragged in front of our very eyes is beyond me. But he rode the challenge from Longstaff, didn't he, Barkley? And then from that moment onwards, they've got big problems because although Bruno's a kind of defensive midfielder, at no stage does he really go anywhere near his defence. There's a huge chasm between their defence and their midfield. And once Barkley had rode the Longstaff challenge, you had Barkley descending on the defence. You had Morris and Clark from the formation switch that we've mentioned recently going at it. You had Alfie going at them. You had Eli. All of a sudden, it was a siege of orange. It was like that film Zulu where they come down the hill with their... It was just like that. And they don't know now. So Barkley's going in. Do we block his shot? Yeah, okay, we'll block his shot. Well, that's no problem because he'll just pass it to Alfie. Alfie could have scored himself. Good save from the keeper. Straight out to Barkley. Not content with just tapping it in. Has to just take a lovely little touch and then just put it in as well. It was just a brilliant goal that was reminiscent of everything Ross Barkley brings to the table and more.
It was an astounding performance from in a season of them, really. And yeah, that thing you mentioned about Gareth Southgate, it's frankly outrageous. Not just to Ross Barkley, to that pitch had so many English players on there that he could have looked at, and he's gone to look at a 30-odd-year-old Jordan Henderson who's playing in not a very good league. It just smacks of, we all know what's going to happen come the summer, and regardless of how good Ross Barkley is, he's only got eyes for Jordan Henderson and maybe Calvin Phillips, who's not played for about 1,000,000 years, and when he does, he's dog shit for West Ham. So I don't know what more Ross Barkley has to do, but on the day, I mean, he's had the most touches, 79 most accurate passes, 51 out of 55.
We might be here a while whilst these stats get read out.
Most passes in the final third, 23. Most final third entries, 9. Most chances created, 4. 8 duels, 1. I mean, the list goes on. He was sensational, and that run for that goal showed everything that he's about. Another aspect of what he's about, because he is also, what Wilco told us, a quarterback who can just sit there and ping balls all over the place. But he can burst forward and he can play in Doughty for that's a chance, and Doughty shot gets saved, and then he's in the right place. Took up a good position because he knows if the goalkeeper parries it, he's got it, and he nets it. And he's just some player. I mean, what an absolute privilege it is to watch that fella play football.
Pleasure and a privilege in there. You're absolutely right. It is. I don't know if there's such a thing as a box-to-box quarterback, but if there is, he's it, because, you know, he can do both ends of the pitch. We recognised in the Bolton Cup game, didn't we, the block that he made to stop a tap in that game. So he can do the defensive bit. We know he's got the passing range, and now he's picking that ball up and he's driving, and that, again, that's essence of that formation change that we've created. And also Sambi Lokonga, I'll come on to him a bit later, because none of this is a fluke. Lokonga's a huge part of what we do, but we're not even halfway through the match yet. 2-2 half time. I have to say I needed half time just to compose myself. It was absolutely manic. I mean, it was already a brilliant away day, but then you go to St James's and you score twice, which is already beyond your wildest dreams. And then after half time, you're like, well, what can happen next? Because normally when the coaches get hold of these teams after a frantic 45, they bore the shit out of the second 45, don't they?
Yep.
None of this time. They still keep Dan Burn on the pitch. I mean, he's been roasted God knows how many times, and you know that something is going to happen. And then what was it, 10 minutes into the second half, 15 minutes into the second half, whatever it was, Chio stands him up and he says, right, let's go to war. Straight past him, he's pulling back at him, Burn, he's losing him, and then finally Chio's in the box and he grabs him. Down he goes. I have absolutely no idea how two officials on that side of the pitch cannot tell that he's fouled him inside the box, and we got 3 or 4 minute VAR wait. But, you know, it was coming. You know, if we'd put it in fluorescent highlighter pen and neon lights, it couldn't have made it any more obvious that it was coming. And when it did, no one in that place was surprised.
Yeah, I don't know what they were playing at, really. Watching the VAR back, I thought that they might give it. There was a first contact outside the box, and I thought they might give it for that. But then there's a second one. He
played on, didn't he? The referee. Yeah. He actually said no, play on, because he loses him, doesn't he? And then when he's just going in the box, he gets him again. Because we've had a few comments both on social media and on our preview thing about the foul taking place outside the box. Yes, it did, but he played on from that one, and it was the second foul that he gave.
Yeah, and that one was clearly inside. It was a nailed on penalty, really. I'm surprised it took that long to get one, because he was grabbing at him and pulling at him as much as he could and still couldn't really rein him in. He was electric, Chio, and you know, we've seen him do that against loads of players, better than Dan Burton anyway, better than Trent Alexander-Arnold. He roasted him up at Kenilworth Road as well. So back to an earlier point you made, it's baffling why nobody saw that coming, but it almost smacks of like not taking Luton seriously, that sort of stuff.
Well, arrogance, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, you could say that because you'd put 2 people on him, wouldn't you? Some teams have, and that's when they've kept him sometimes quiet. You put 2 players on him and hope for the best, really. But he could still knock it past both of them and run, but that's a different story. But it was a penalty all day long, and then the debacle of it. I mean, the letter of the law, it's correct, but to make him take it twice was a bit nerve-wracking at the time. But then I guess that's just the nerves of the time, because if you think back to the playoff final and all the penalties Luton took, they've still got that in their locker. And he talked about it afterwards, didn't he, Morris, about going through that process. I mean, to still ice in his veins to stick it in the same place twice. I had a lot of time for that one, but yeah, dreamland at that point, wasn't it?
I mean, absolute balls of steel from Morris. I mean, he's right. You couldn't hear yourself think. So I can understand why he thought the referee had blown his whistle. Obviously, the referee's behind him and he hadn't blown his whistle. So the referee's right to make him take it again. I get that. But to show the goalkeeper what you're going to do and then do the exact same thing and the goalie dives the exact same way, I mean...
It's glorious, wasn't it? Absolutely glorious.
It was just brilliant, and I'm delighted for Carlton because his assist earlier in the game, obviously his goal against Burnley was massive, and in this formation change he has made a huge impact. And obviously he's captain as well now without Tom, and he's spoken as well, I think, in the interview after the game, how much being the captain after Tom means to him as well, and how he's trying to take Tom's leadership skills onto the pitch with him. And he's doing brilliantly. I think that's 5 goals and 5 assists for Morris this season. So 10 goal contributions. Huge impact for Morris. And this is a guy who was kind of getting frustrated that that goal wasn't happening. And now he looks like the beast that he was in the Championship once again.
Absolutely. And I know I didn't get the scoreline right, but I did call Morris to score. So I'm having that. Is that half a point?
It's not half a point.
You're a hard man to please.
It's kudos. That's all you're getting.
I just think having him on the pitch, it wasn't quite working before when it was the front three. I don't know why, because he's played that before, but this little tweak that we've talked of now, it's just working wonders for him. And to have him on the pitch as extra goal threat that's probably why Luton have scored so many, and not just him. Obviously, there's a lot of reasons, but a 20 goal man from last season shouldn't be sitting on the bench. If there's a sniff, he'll get it. And wasn't getting those sniffs earlier in the season, but he's proving so instrumental now. And if he's not going to score and he can set one up, then he'd be happy with that as well. So yeah, I thought he had a great game, Morris.
Yeah, absolutely immense. I was going to say classy number 9 performance, but he wasn't the number 9.
No, yeah.
But the number 9 did get, well, he's number 11 shirt-wise, but the number 9 in the formation set-up got his say on the game as well. I mean, Luton have improved so much, but what was good about the 4th goal is we can still go back to the counter-attacking days as well. And once the ball broke to Alfie, it was just burst down. I think everyone thought he was going to cross it because Eli was kind of in the box ready for a cross, but he's seen Barkley or Barkley's called him or whatever.
It's a great pass that split 2 players.
It's a brilliant pass.
Yeah.
And then we're in the exact same situation that we were in 20 minutes previous with Barkley's bearing down on goal. They think he's going to shoot. He shapes to shoot. He brings 2 of them in to block the shot. Never in month Sundays was he going to shoot. He didn't just pass it to Eli. He put it in a position where all Eli's got to do, stay on side and ping it in the far corner. If you watched our 3rd goal against Brighton, change the colours of the shirts because you saw it exactly the same again, that little bit of movement. And we are proper in dreamland when that hits the back of the net. No more than we deserved. We were brilliant for an hour.
Yeah, at that point, rampant. But I saw somebody say on Twitter, and I apologise, I can't remember who it was, but it made me chuckle, that if you looked up weight of pass in the dictionary, just say Ross Barkley, because he absolutely laid it on a plate for Eli. And a man of his form after the hat-trick in midweek against Brighton, he is not missing that. And you don't have to do much to that. You can pass it. He did pass it into the net with some gusto, but yeah, I mean, that was incredible. And I genuinely thought that they'd go on and win it at that point. And I suppose that's where the tinge of disappointment comes from. But I mean, ultimately, you still got to hold your hands up to the attacking qualities of Newcastle. Both teams were fucking brilliant in attack, and you just sometimes have to go, hey, don't we all love those sorts of games of football?
Absolutely, and it's not the first one we've been involved in this season either, is it? At the time, Elijah Adebayo had gone in the top 10 scorers in the Premier League this season. Cole Palmer since overtook him Sunday afternoon. But of those 10 top goal scorers, with Palmer out of the equation, only one man has more goals per minute in the Premier League this season. And it's some fella, you might have heard of him actually, Erling Haaland. He's not bad either.
Oh, yeah. Rings a bell.
Yeah, he's keeping mighty good company.
Do you know what, though? Erling Haaland is a goal machine in the best team in the world, and so he's always going to be up the top there. But Elijah Adebayo had a stinker of a start to this season, so to be in that picture at all is phenomenal.
It really is. Yep. 9 goals in the Premier League for Elijah, 10 if you include that Bournemouth one. He's 5 off the top goal scorer in this division, although Haaland is back now, so might struggle to catch him.
He could do that in one game, couldn't he? Haaland really get 5. But yeah, it is incredible turnaround, and he's showing the sort of form that he did when he first came in the Luton side and got his chance halfway through the season. Obviously, he signed in January, but we all thought he'd be a bit of a long-term prospect and a bit of development. And then he come in and he scored and he just didn't stop. And that's sort of where we are now with Elijah Adebayo. He's just got his mojo back.
Yeah, I'm not picking on Dan Burn, but he was just a focal point of the game. It was his loose challenge that sent the ball out to Doughty to start that. And finally, Eddie Howe's realised, and I've had enough of this bloke. I mean, what is he, 6'7"? You can't miss him, so you must know that he's been terrible. Finally, he gets the Shepherd's hook and he's off. And the 2 subs that come on, Tino Livramento was always going to keep Chio more quiet because he's got more pace. But the real one was Harvey Barnes. This bugger always scores against us. So, why couldn't you have stayed injured for one more week, man? That's all we needed. I don't think the game changed at that point. I thought we were still perfectly as good as we were. But when you're 4-2 down, you got to respond, haven't you? When everyone in that ground of a home nature is expecting them to win. And to be fair, they did. I don't think we did a great deal wrong. Maybe we could have cleared the set piece a little bit further away from our goal than what we did. But mildly, to be fair, that pass across goal for Trippier to score, that's a serious ball with the outside of the right boot into Trippier, who just volleys it in the bottom corner. Kaminsky got no chance.
It is great ball. I think if it's anyone else but Morris, and I've just talked him up in an attacking sense, if that's a defender on Trippier, I think you just lean into him a bit more and put him off balance, and maybe that has the desired effect. But yeah, I mean, he showed a lot of desire, to be fair. He was a decent volley as well for a fella that's more known for probably crossing than finishing, isn't he? But yeah, the heart sank a little bit then because they hadn't really got over the emotion of the 4-2, and it was very, very, very quick. I mean, as it was for their second goal, they cancelled out the Osho's leveller and put them ahead. So there was a lot of that going on. I mean, it was chaos, wasn't it? It was absolute, it was madness. And yeah, at that point, there's so much time. You felt that they'd get back into it. I didn't think they'd get back into it that quickly. And yeah, I suppose there's some controversy as to how they did as well.
Yes, there is. Ross Barkley takes on, I think it was Longstaff, who from 100 yards away, and that was just down to the goal in front of us, let alone the rest of the pitch, it looked like Ross Barkley was fouled. It looked like he kind of pushed the ball past Longstaff and was going to carry on his run, and he was kind of checked, really. The referee didn't give it. Ball fell to Harvey Barnes, and you could tell from the away end, you knew the angle he was at, that Kaminsky was blocked out by Gabe Osho, and he curled it in. Didn't go in the corner, so one or two people are sort of pointing a finger at Kaminsky, but he would have been unsighted until it got past Osho. But yeah, he always scores against us, Harvey Barnes. We don't play against him very often, but he always scores against us, and lo and behold, there it is, 4-4.
Yeah, and the heart properly sank then, because for all of Luton's great start to that first half, and they get back into it in quickfire fashion, and there was a million years to go until the final whistle, considering the amount of goals that had gone on a VAR. The VAR one was checked for forever, so you knew that it was going to be a pretty lengthy period of extra time. So you probably at that stage staring down the barrel of another half an hour of football, and you're like, yeah, the St James's Park was pretty rocking there, and that they make a hell of a noise. So, any other probably promoted team they shrink at that point, I think. But Luton didn't. But you know, on the controversy of the foul, I don't think there's a conclusive enough angle for it. It does look like he has slightly been fouled, but then Ross Barkley, you know, to his credit and his detriment at the same time, tries to play on and tries to win the ball back. I think if he probably sells that more, because he does get knocked up in the air as well, and then maybe he gets the foul there. I think you probably have to err on the side of the attacker, and I think we talk a lot about consistency, mainly with referees, and how it's not there. And I think if we're going to say a couple of podcasts back that you're allowed contact in the box with the goalkeeper, James Trafford for Burnley, I think you have to say consistent wise. I don't think you can give it. I was hoping I was hoping the VAR decision was going to come out, but I don't think there's too much you can really complain about. I mean, that's not to say that the people won't complain, but it's not as clear cut, I don't think. And I do think, I mean, Kaminsky made a string of good saves again. I think his positioning probably wasn't as good there, but maybe Harvey Barnes takes that earlier than he's expecting. It certainly seems that way because he side-footed it from so far out, and there was a massive, massive gap. And I think you've got to give credit for the shot there. But yeah, it was a sickener. In the end, it didn't turn out that way.
Well, I mean, Barkley's been so good with the ball this season that Kaminsky probably thought he had 5 minutes before the next attack was coming, didn't he, to be fair? I mean, where I would say on this foul is if it's at the other end and Longstaff wipes out Barkley. Sorry, the other way around. Barkley would wipe out Longstaff. I wouldn't want the foul to be given. You know, I'd be annoyed if we're stopped because of a foul like that. So yeah, and it's hard to be too critical. You know, if that was in our favour, I wouldn't want a foul there either. So I'm kind of fine with it. And then, like you say, I mean, the best part of half an hour of football still to go. If this game was played in August or September, I think we do go down. I do. But we're made of so much stronger stuff now. To be fair to Kaminsky, he's made an absolute worldie of a save from someone down on that left wing. I can't remember who it was, but
was it Jacob Murphy?
May well have been flicked off of Ted and Mengi, didn't it? And it was just going to nestle in the corner, but he's got it and pushed it round the post. But apart from Murphy's miss of an open goal at the back stick, which even then Amari Bell might have got in the way and blocked it anyway, they didn't really do an awful lot in that half an hour. And the golden chance to win the game came from Luton. And again, orchestrated by Ross Barkley, who, I mean, you mentioned about his passing range a little while ago. Well, I mean, he stuck it on a sixpence for Chio, who's ran in behind the defence. Hit it, Chio. Hit it with everything you've got. He didn't. He kind of went for that controlled sort of side-footing finish and hit the keeper. But great chance. And if that had gone in, I mean, Jesus Christ, we were way up in the gods. But I think we'd all have been pitch-side by the time we'd finished celebrating. It was... It was a great chance, but a lovely ball again. He has got vision that I've not seen any footballer have in my life before, Barkley.
Yeah, I think if that falls to anyone of a Morris or Adebayo persuasion, that gets laces and that gets in. But you can't criticise Chio. You have to hit the target. If he's not done that, then you have to say, well, that's a great chance, properly wasted. But he's hit the target. It's not gone in, and a share of the spoils, but. I mean, from their goal, the 4-4, I think a huge amount of credit has to go to Luton in the way that they have nullified it. If we're talking about a team that can take adversity and take a knock, go a goal behind and come back, then to manage that last period in the way that it did, you know, it's a bit harum-scarum for a while, but once they got into that 10-minute period of added time, Luton were the better side. They had it ball mostly, possession mostly. They were in Newcastle's half a lot more, and obviously they got the chance, which could have won it, whereas Newcastle didn't create anything after that. And that shows a lot of improvement as well. I mean, from a game when a lot of goals have gone in, so you can't really credit too much defensively. I think the maturity to sort of slow that down a bit and take your time and build more and have a threat, it's hugely positive for Luton. You know, regardless if you take out the result of it being a draw, going forward, if they can do that against a team, any team, this is probably why that stat of 15 goals after 75 minutes, that's where it comes from, because they've got belief they can do it, but also quality, which is where the Barkley ping comes from.
Yeah, indeed. It's easy to forget now because these players are playing so well. 6 of that starting 11 started in the playoff final last season. Now they're going to St James's Park and they're going toe-to-toe with a team that's played Champions League football this season. 4 more players from the Championship came off the bench for us yesterday. It is just... is it 4? 3 or 4? I lost count of all the subs. Woodrow, Burke, Pelly. Did anyone else come off the bench? If they did, then I apologise to them. But people were bringing Championship squad off the bench, and they're going toe-to-toe with a side that walloped PSG 4-1 on this very ground less than 4 months ago. I mean, I've watched Premier League football a lot. I can't remember the last promoted team that have brought so many of their Championship side with them and done things like this. I mean, you look at Notts Forest, they had some good games on their own ground last year, but they didn't bring their Championship team with them. They signed a whole new squad and paying the price for it with charges now. Yes, we've added some real quality, and I'm going to come on to a couple of them in a minute, but largely this is the DNA of this squad is the Championship squad from last season. It's absolutely incredible, the improvement in these boys.
It really is. I mean, we've not even talked about Jordan Clark. The way a stormer of a game, he picks up some great positions, some really unselfish positions that allow Barkley to do some damage. His touch is great. He's got good vision. You know, until Barkley came on, look, we all know that we're talking about him as the greatest ever free signing, and he's still top draw. But the fact that he's come in after, you know, almost midway through the season, and he's now more of a regular. He obviously had the injury, but to pick up straight away and prove yourself to be adept at Premier League football. There's him, there's Gay Bosho in the same boat. There's something in the water at the Brace because they're all doing it.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest compliment that you can pay Jordan Clark, Andros Townsend stayed on the bench.
Yeah,
you know, he was the match winner in the home game, and it really was sort of just crazy. Sometimes just struggle to, although we're watching him improve week in, week out. I just can't fathom how it's happening. It's unbelievable coaching that's going on. That's now 2 goals and 3 assists in the last 6 Premier League games for Ross Barkley. You know, and these are good teams he's playing. You know, in these last 6 games, we've played Chelsea, we've played Brighton, we've played Newcastle, dominating all of these. And like you said earlier, it's just, I woke up this morning kind of disappointed because it's 6 more days till we get to see him do his thing again. And you're like, you almost want a midweek game so that it comes along sooner, you know?
Yeah, I do. He's unbelievable. And I think when Match of the Day start joining on the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast bandwagon that we've been running for about 2 months. So that
we created this.
that Ross Barkley should be in the England side, then I think this thing's got legs, really, because he's playing in this deeper role, this quarterback role, which he's excelling at, and has given him a new lease of life. He's showing the old Ross Barkley with the goal that he scored. He's got that vision, but because he's occupying this deeper role now for Luton, he's a million miles better than Calvin Phillips, who's not played football for eons. He's got to be in the contention. he should be in contention now. It shouldn't be like, oh, if he keeps playing better, because he's been doing this for the entire season for Luton, bar the first couple of games when he was just getting up to speed because he hadn't played for a while. The guy is phenomenal. And if we can't, as a nation, or Gareth Southgate mainly, if you can't see the attacking qualities of somebody in that much form, then I can't really get that excited about the England the tilt for the trophy in the summer, because you're not giving us the best opportunities to win it.
When we put this bandwagon together and got it up and running, we were just Ross Barkley to go to the Euros. His form now is such that I don't even think he should go to the Euros as a squad member. I think right now he has to be the man to start that opening game of the Euro 2024 tournament alongside Declan Rice in the heart of our midfield with Bellingham in front of them. I don't see another central midfielder to play that role. I haven't seen him in the Premier League this season. There's lots of talk about Curtis Jones. He's a little bit further forward in terms of where he plays on the pitch. And Kobe Mainu, but it's far too soon for him to go to the Euros, you would imagine. He may go to the World Cup, but not the Euros. Now, squad place isn't enough here. Ross Barkley should be starting for England in that role alongside Declan Rice, because he is starring in it for us.
He's one of, if not the best midfielder in the country at the moment. And he's got this new lease of life. And the fact that he's playing in the Premier League and doing this against big teams. Jordan Henderson has just been pissing around in the Saudi league in front of 600 fans for nothing. Didn't like it, didn't fancy very much, and gone to the Dutch league. Yes, he's playing for a massive world name in Ajax, but the league ain't much that cop. Ain't that much cop. Barkley's doing it in the Premier League for Luton, and I think the only thing there is possibly that he's playing for Luton, and there's this attitude that if you are, then you probably shouldn't be playing for England. I think he's proven this nonsense.
Agreed. And I've not forgotten the Alfie for England bandwagon either. We've just parked that slightly. We'll pick that up again in the games to come, that's for sure. 15 goals in 6 Premier League games for Luton now, until Liverpool decided that they were going to score this afternoon. That was the most of anyone in the last 6 games in the Premier League. That includes Manchester City. It did include Liverpool at the time. That includes Tottenham. It includes Arsenal. It includes everyone. I mean, I was worried at the start of the season, James. Not that we couldn't stay up. I knew we could. My worry was, could we score enough goals to stay up? Because last season we won a lot of games 1-0. And you knew we were coming up against better sides this season. Can we score enough goals to stay up? My God, you bet we can. Highest scoring team in the bottom half of the league table now. Now that Wolves disappeared out into the sunset and into the top half earlier on today. These statistics, they keep on piling up. They're incredible.
Yeah, all over the place. And that's just the latest one, really. But yeah, they've got to tighten up from the game against Newcastle defensively, but maybe that's an anomaly. Let's face it, they kept Brighton out pretty convincingly for a clean sheet there. I mean, there's not enough clean sheets, that's for sure. But it's kind of like this. I'm not saying this because this is the Newcastle episode. It's kind of like the old Kevin Keegan Newcastle, where it's like, well, you can score 2 if you like, but we'll score more. It's bloody exciting.
I mean, you say about clean sheets, and yeah, I get it that everyone would like clean sheets, but you look at this weekend, 10 matches in the Premier League, the only clean sheets were kept by Aston Villa against Sheffield United and Manchester United against the West Ham side, who had God knows how many shots, but had no radar to speak of whatsoever. So 20 teams this weekend have played football, and only 2 of them have kept clean sheets, and one of them plays Sheffield United, which is an automatic clean sheet for a side of Aston Villa's scope. So I think they are overrated in this particular Premier League season, with 5 subs, with however much VAR time added on or injury time added on. I just think modern football has taken away the need for the clean sheet. You're almost now looking at the games where you can concede 0 or 1 to get something out of it. And, you know, we're starting to do that a lot more, aren't we? That's the main thing. But I don't think we'll come in to any 4-4s or anything anytime soon. This was just like you say, just a day where the attackers decided to roll their sleeves up and let's have a go.
Yeah, but we're creating chances as well. I mean, if you think to Brighton, it could have been more than 4 comfortably.
As it could yesterday.
Well, yeah. But when the chances come, being clinical as well, which that wasn't really happening. And even when you're not scoring, yeah, it could have been the most harebrained goal ever at the end. I mean, you probably wouldn't be here recording this with me now. You've probably fallen down the steep slope that is St James's Park and just rolled onto the pitch and stuff if Chio had scored. But let's face it, he got it on target as well. So something's going on that yeah, we know that they've been working on it, but you've got to be in it to win it. And if you can hit in the target, then you've got that chance. And you can't argue with that amount of goals that are being scored at the moment. It is phenomenal.
If that Chio chance had gone in, I wouldn't have been here recording this. I'd still have been in a pub in Newcastle somewhere singing from the hymn sheet of Luton Town because, it would have driven everything absolutely crazy. Listen, we can talk about Ross Barkley forever and a day. We've got 16 more opportunities to talk about him, but we need to talk about someone else, and that's the man alongside him. Albert Sambi Lokonga is... I genuinely, yeah, he is.
What a player.
He's chef's kiss. He's a Rolls Royce. He's any kind of positive termination that you want to speak about. He is it. Now, this run of form, yes, we've said about a formation change and how it's coincided with that. And obviously it was kind of fueled by the emotion of what happened to Tom and everything else. But where it's no surprise is Sambi Lokonga has started 6 Premier League games for Luton since his injury. He came back for 10 or 15 minutes against Man City, didn't he, when Marvellous was going to be suspended for the Bournemouth game. So he started 6 games that count. We're not including the Bournemouth game because that doesn't count anymore. We've won 3, we've drawn 2, and the only defeat was against Chelsea, where we was the width of the crossbar from getting something out of that game. What this guy brings to the team in his own play is exceptional, but the fact that just by being as good as he is frees up Ross Barkley to be as good as he is makes him one of the most valuable loan signings we've ever had. And I'll open that debate on a deep dive. We won't do that now because we've got so much to talk about. But he is brilliant. Although, if you're Mikel Arteta or anything to do with Arsenal, he is absolutely dog shit. Just let us have him for nothing in the summer.
Yeah, or whatever you want from it for him. Actually, I mean, his contract might be coming out, isn't it? I think if it is, then would you accept 10 million? And we'll
crowdfund?
Yeah, crowdfund it, and we'll get him in because he's having an absolute storming season. I mean, yesterday he was 100% on dribbles completed, which is pretty impressive. It's impressive as you can get, isn't it? So, but he also
you do better than that. You're going well, aren't you?
There's a lot of 110% margins in football, though. That's
right.
But 91% in his passing. You know, if it wasn't for Ross Barkley, we'd be raving about him as well. So let's do it.
Yeah. And that's 91% of passes, and that's not your centre-back to centre-back passing. This guy's got a passing range that, like you say, had it not been for Ross Barkley, that comment that you made about passing range, well, it'd been Albert Sambi Lokonga in the dictionary, not Ross Barkley, because, I mean, you saw it on Tuesday night, the pass to Chio, 60-yard pass on a dime, go and chase that Chio. Luca at the club did an interview with him that's on YouTube ahead of the game, and you could tell this is a guy who absolutely loves playing for Luton Town, and he's a loan signing, don't forget. He's still technically an Arsenal player. You would imagine that his sights would be more on Arsenal winning the league, but no, he is firmly ensconced on this relegation battle and making sure that Luton stay up. And I mean, Jesus, you're playing alongside Ross Barkley, why wouldn't you like it? But the form with him in the team is because he's in the team. He's so calm, even when he got booked yesterday, I was like, ooh, but it don't matter because he's not stupid enough to dive in again. And they must be a bloody good side, Arsenal, if he can't get near it. That's all I'll say.
Well, they can carry on being a bloody good side as far as I'm concerned. And if they want to chuck him our way for cut price, then let's be having it, because he's phenomenal. The pair of them, actually, and it has been highlighted, and hopefully there's more Eddie Howes in the world that aren't going to pay attention to this, but the pair of them, they don't play these sideways passes. There is a bit more of that in the Luton team, and that helped in that final 10 minutes. Just establish themselves, keep the ball more, keep possession. But then when both of them get it, either of them get it, sorry, they're always looking for a ball that's going to penetrate through the lines. You saw it for the second guard against Brighton for Chio. That was an exceptional ball, but they don't all have to be 60-yard pings. Sometimes they're just incisive 10-yard balls that get through midfield or something like that. And they're both absolutely fantastic at doing it. And it's no surprise that Luton are scoring as many goals as they are when you've got that ability to throw into the mix. And Jordan Clark is another one that can do it as well. So when the three of them are on the pitch, it's dangerous.
I look at the bottom half of the table, which we've got to do because, survival battle and everything else. Take Chelsea out of the equation because they're not a bottom half of the table team. They're just in the bottom half of the table because of the way the results have been. I don't see a better central midfield pair than these two. There isn't a bottom half of the table side where I wouldn't want their midfield over ours. And that's an incredible thing.
Exactly. And that's why I think we're so confident. I mean, well, one of the reasons why we're so confident, because they just seem to be getting better and better and better. There's no fluke game where they have a stellar one and then they drop off after that. I mean, the biggest drop off that there's been in this time, Barkley wise, was the one against Bolton, where we didn't have that much influence really. But in a Premier League setting, he's just absolutely on fire, and he's raising the standard for a young player like Sambi Lokonga. Say that I can do that as well, and he is. He's raising the standard for somebody that's been knocking around in the lower leagues, non-league even, and he's made his way up and absolutely loves the club in Jordan Clark, and he's doing it. He's creating the chances, both of them creating chances for the strikers, and they're now being clinical and thriving, and everything's looking really positive. It'd be handy if other teams would beat the teams around them to make it more positive, but it was 16th after the game at Newcastle and 17th after Forest drew, but still out the bottom three and a game in hand still. So, yeah, optimism all over the place.
Without doubt. Out of the bottom three, where we are right now, that's absolutely fine. I don't think we'll finish where we are right now. I think we'll go even higher because we're just improving. And we've said on this podcast quite a lot that the second half of the season looked on paper an awful lot easier than the first half, just on the home games alone. I mean, it's now only Aston Villa of the top six that have got to come to Kenilworth Road. Still 8 home games left. So there's still 7 other home games, even if you think that Aston Villa are a tough nut to crack, that you can get points from. With 20 points now, we kind of scoffed when Ross Barkley said that 40 points was on the agenda, but he's not wrong now, is he? 6 wins and 2 draws with these 16 games that we've got left. That means we can lose half of them and still pick that points total up. 1 defeat in 9 in all competitions. 1 defeat in 7 if you take away the Bolton games against Premier League opposition. And again, I'll reiterate, that defeat was against Chelsea, where we very, very nearly got something from that and may well have done had we had the appropriate amount of injury time that we should have had. It is... I mean, we often go on these mid-season runs, but we don't often go on them in the Premier League. It is unbelievable. But it's the first time in 2 years and 2 months that Newcastle have conceded 4 at home in a Premier League game. Just some team called Man City done it the last time. I mean, the town are treading paths with the biggest and best sides in the world, and we absolutely love to see it. As a Luton fan, I've never, ever, ever had it so good. And I'm still scared that it's a dream, and I'm staying away from any thorns or anything that can poke me and wake me up just in case. It is absolutely brilliant. I'm loving everything. Yesterday was a brilliant away day. Credit to Newcastle for that. Finally, we've gone to an away ground that's got some bloody noise in it, full of passionate fans, great fans. I mean, that banner that they put up before the game I couldn't read it fully because it was obviously below us, but it's something like "We Are the Magpies" or something like that, and they roused from it. When they were 4-2 down, we'll have gone to teams who would have been booing and everything else. I mean, Everton were booing at half time last week in the Cup, not Newcastle. They were shouting louder, got behind them. Brilliant away day, forgetting the result, but the result just made it so much more better. I love it.
Yeah, you summed it up very nicely there. I mean, the emotions of it, we'll think about that game for a very, very long time. And I think it's a modern Premier League classic already. I think it has to be viewed in those terms. And Newcastle have had a few of those over the years. And they got a point out of this one. Previously, they got beaten by Liverpool, I think, twice, 4-3. But those ones always stick in the mind. And this one was just... they'll talk about it being a great product and a great advert for the Premier League because it was goal. But you've seen Newcastle have a very good season last season. And I know from the many comments we got on the YouTube of the preview that they've had lots and lots of injury. Yes, we know. And so they've not been quite as good this season. But I think that sort of got back to what they were last season. But above all of that, this is the story of Luton Town. And it was already, as we know, the greatest fairy tale in football. But there's no team doing this. You can't compare, really. Sheffield United and Burnley are not producing the levels that Luton are at the moment. They haven't got the optimism. They haven't even got the stats behind them. As we know, after 20 games, no team who had less than 15 points, which those two didn't, has ever managed to stay up. With Sheffield United getting thumped for 5 at Aston Villa. Yeah, Burnley got a last-minute equaliser at the weekend, but they're not showing the signs that they can get out of it. But Luton are, and it's incredible to watch.
Yeah, it is, and all this for a team that we're going to be relegated at Christmas.
Yeah,
Derby's points record and all that other bollocks, which we've well and truly rammed down people's throat. I heard it for the first time yesterday, 2 or 3 different places. Luton are gracing this Premier League and they belong in the Premier League, and it just sounded brilliant.
Well, that's what people are talking of now, isn't it? And I mean, yes, we were singing that song from the start because we've been on this crazy ride since John Steele got us up from the conference. It's been incredible. It kind of shows that a lot of the pundits that were naysayers at the beginning don't really look beyond the Premier League. They don't really know what's going on. They don't understand a team like Luton. It's almost like I don't think anybody can fathom it. They didn't understand that when we came up and they were saying you'd be down, you'd be the whipping boys. We were like, don't care. It's great to be in the Premier League. This has made the club sustainable. But don't you want to stay in the Premier League? Yeah, of course we do. But there's a bigger picture thing here, which isn't really there with many other clubs. There will be some that have had to go down further down the leagues than they probably liked. None as far as Luton, and none as far as getting back. They'll talk about Notts County and Wrexham probably as similar stories if they can do it. But if they can do it in 10 years, good luck to them. But this is one hell of a ride, and it's just still going up and up and up.
It really is, yeah. I mean, with Wrexham, they're going to be funded to do it, aren't they? Which we never were. I knew I would enjoy this season. Of course I did. For the first season for 30 years that we've been in the top flight. I mean, even if it had resulted in what everyone said it was going to, you'd have been stupid not to have enjoyed it. But just the way we're playing in it, the games we're involved in, not just yesterday, the 4-3 against Arsenal, that magical moment against Liverpool, leading Man City, that crazy night, Tuesday night against Brighton, and everything else that's coming with it. The joy of seeing Ross Barkley, the pure class of Sambi Lokonga, the unbelievable talent that's Ted Mengi, Elijah's progression into a Premier League top-class striker, everything that goes with it. It's absolutely brilliant, and I'm so delighted that the boys are doing it on this stage, and they're finally getting the credit that they deserve from those outside of Luton. And credit to all the Newcastle fans I spoke to yesterday whilst I was waiting for the bus back to the Metro and things like that. They were all like, wow, you belong in this league, and we hope we see you next year, and all of this. And yeah, I hope I'm going to St James's Park next year, because I had a bloody great time.
Yeah, I think that Luton are now where they deserve to be. I mean, they belong in this division. They've got the quality to cause nearly every team that they've played this season, some problems. I think you can only really point to those first two games, maybe the West Ham one, but they were in that a little bit. But the first two games where they were quite overawed by the whole situation, and then maybe the Brentford one where there was just nothing happening there. But even that one is a learning point, that since that game, it's kicked on to this unbelievable run where this calendar year, certainly 2024, has been incredible. And you just love to see it. But you talk about the progression from those two games to now, but it keeps improving. It's not just, oh yeah, we're having this great run and then it maybe dips off. It's up and up and up at the moment. And, you know, with Sheffield United coming to town at the weekend, you just feel it's going to continue. I mean, we were confident that we're going to get a win at Newcastle, and then bloody hell, the amount of comments that said to us that we couldn't. I think they're all eating their hats now, because that was a hell of a game.
It absolutely was. Yeah. And the biggest thing for me is the boys aren't in disbelief that they're doing it. They themselves know they're good enough to do this, and that is above everything. Sheffield United, and I'm not digging them out or picking on them, and I will give them the respect that they deserve when we do the preview podcast. They know they're not good enough for the Premier League. Now they know it. It was written all over Chris Wilder's face in his interview yesterday after that silly shenanigans about the sandwich in his previous one. But our lot, they know that they're good enough. At no stage yesterday did I see a team that was starstruck when they went 4-2 up. You know, they didn't kill themselves. Newcastle just upped it again, and that's fine. And that says to me that we're not going to dip now. This is the level we're at. Now, can teams match this level? Because if you can't, you're not going to finish above us in the table, those that are around us right now. These boys are at this level, and they're going to perform to it, if not improve on it, for the next 16 games.
Yeah, and one of the impressive things, I mean, all the talk was about the goals and the excitement of it and everything, but Newcastle, one of the hardest running teams in the Premier League, and Luton matched them for that as well. So that work rate is what's going to keep them up there. Yeah, they weren't, the possession stats, they were slightly lower. I think they were 43%. That's still phenomenal, really, against a team that can play like that on their home ground, that has all that positive energy running through them. We know what it's like at Kenilworth Road when we get that going. Now, they've got 50,000 at Newcastle, so it does have an effect. But to match them for those sorts of things is that's the benchmark, isn't it, really? And then all the quality that comes on top of that is doubly impressive.
And it's not just the boys who believe it. You look on the sideline at 4-2, Rob Edwards ain't surprised. Mm-hmm. He is as calm as a cucumber. Again, I'm not digging his predecessor out, but he'll have been flying up and down the touchline, Mikel Arteta style. And it, you know, that's when it kind of, as a player, when it's getting tough, when they get back to 4-4, you look on the sideline and Nathan's pulling his hair out, or he's biting his fingernails, or everything else, and that feeds into the team. 4-4 yesterday, they looked over and Rob was just, calm it down, let's, you know, never too high, never too low, all of that sort of thing. And they rode it out, and it was just brilliant, and I love watching it, and I can't wait for these last 16 games to come around, because if they're even a tenth as good as yesterday, they'll be brilliant.
Yeah. Do you know what, actually, when you were saying that, an unsung performance once he came on in that final stages, Pelly and Pansy, really came on and helped. It's mad to say this for Pelly and Pansy, because he's such a jack-in-the-box, but calmed it down. Really did help. And it's the sort of thing that you'd expect Andros Townsend to become on and do, because he could do that and give you that control. But when we're talking about all these players from the Championship that have come up and stepped up a level, he's got to be learning from that, because he's not having the game time that he would have had. He was never present for many, many seasons. When you've got Ross Barkley and Sambi Lokonga on the pitch, then you're gonna have to play a supporting role. But to do that, he was so much better against Newcastle than he was against Brighton, because he was a bit off it then.
Yeah, you're right. I'm glad you brought substitutions back up, because of course Jacob Brown is the one that I forgot, and he was another player, not with us in the Championship last season, but who was a Championship footballer last season. I mean, just an incredible afternoon of football, another afternoon I'll never ever forget, and hopefully it's a point that contributes greatly towards Luton staying in the division this season.
I think it will be, because we talked beforehand. I was confident of a win. It didn't come, but that was like the top level dreamland stuff. You get a win, but a point away, win your home games, then now you're talking. And really, the home games that have got coming up, of those 8 that you talked about, with only Aston Villa to come and their away form's not that particularly good, it's looking really good for the running, and for a team that's building and getting better and growing in this confidence, especially when they play at home. We know what that's like. It's just, I want them to be playing tomorrow, because I don't want to have to wait.
That's exactly it. That is the only disappointing thing from this game of football, that we've got to wait until Saturday for it to happen again. Because, I mean, if you're not liking watching this football team, it's not really the sport for you, is it? It's just absolutely brilliant. That is it. Unfortunately,
say it isn't so.
Unfortunately, that is it for this episode of the podcast. We have run over an hour again. We are trying to keep these between 45 minutes and an hour, but hey, when you've got 8 goals and God knows everything else to pack into it, there's no chance of us keeping this one to an hour. But at least you got another 5 days. You got until the weekend to listen to this one. It will still be in date, not like some of them that we've had recently. Your final thoughts on the day, though, James, just to sum it all up.
Just when you thought that you've had as much pride and admiration for a football team and a bunch of players, they just exceed it, really. And we'd like to win. We'd like to hold on at 4-2, but at the same time, you've got to give Newcastle some credit, but to not capitulate as well in a game of that emotional magnitude is remarkable from them. And just you just have to take your hat off to them, because this is some football club.
Yeah, absolutely is some football club. Yeah, I woke up this morning as proud as I've ever been of us. And like I say, the fact that narrative is getting changed and we're hearing it everywhere we go now, it's just absolutely brilliant. That is it for this episode of the podcast. Our thanks, as always, to the Hightown Club for staging the studio for us, to Sean Grant and the Wolfgang for the wonderful intro music, and to Ed Smith Creative for all the designs that you see on set. Until next time, which will be a preview of a huge game of football at Kenilworth Road against Sheffield United. Come on, you Hatters.
I love this town. I love this town. I love this town. You know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got these massive souls. We're Luton people.